Jamie here, and on behalf of the Klippyo team, welcome back to our video series where we're discussing video, but more specifically, the types of video you should be creating to drive more profit and more click-worthy video views into your business. In the last video, we discussed the state of the video marketing industry, essentially what's working right now when producing video content. In this video, we're going to discuss the video content in a bit more detail and talk about how to create the one video you should be creating right now to drive more clicks, more traffic, and more sales on any product or service that you're offering. So Daryl, in the first video, we discussed briefly on the type of video content you should be producing, but for anybody that didn't see that, or just to refresh a few memories, what type of video, if there's one video you should create as a business, what type of video is that?
Yeah, for me, it's a social video.
And to kind of take that a bit further then, and kind of briefly remind everybody what type of video that is, can you explain what a social video is, but also why that type of video is so important?
Absolutely. You know, before we do that, there's a lot of people that just pick up a camera and start recording, and that could be one of the worst things that you could ever do. Yeah. And there are stages, like you mentioned. There's a stage of preparation, there's a stage of production, there's a stage of post-production, and then there's a stage for distribution. And each one of those stages are outright critical, and they work in harmony together to really get your video being seen.
So you've mentioned quite a few stages to creating one of these types of videos. So I suppose we start at the very beginning. You mentioned preparation. Yeah. Can you take us through what that means in relation to creating one of these?
Yeah, and it's really interesting because a lot of people, they're more about doing instead of preparing. And I found that if you really want to succeed, it's about the preparation of knowing exactly what you're going to do, how you're going to execute it. So I always like to really start to figure out why I'm making the video. It should have a very specific purpose. I think it'd be really relevant to actually have you go through this process with me. Okay. Does that sound good? Yeah. Okay, so let's just say that you're trying to sell some merch, okay? Yeah. And you're trying to sell it on social media. You have some product or whatever, okay? So tell me someone that you really know really well. Besides Joey and David.
My brother.
Okay, so your brother David. Okay.
Chris.
Okay, brother Chris. Okay, so Chris, he probably loves football, right? Yeah. Does he have a team?
Liverpool.
Okay. And is there an opposing team that it's just a rivalry?
There's a couple. Probably the biggest one's Manchester United, which everyone knows.
Okay, so Liverpool, Manchester United. Yeah. Okay, so there's like some natural friction.
Heavy rivalry.
Okay. So first thing is like, okay, if we're gonna actually create a video, we need to have a purpose of that video. The number two is we need to identify our audience. Who do we want watching this video? So I would say it would be people that are like hardcore Liverpool fans, yep, like your brother. Yeah. Okay, and then we need to start breaking down of some of the things that they kind of rally around that would get them excited. Yep. And what would be one of those things that you'd think?
Well, beating Manchester United or scoring goals, or if we think of players, maybe Mohamed Salah, who's Liverpool's best player, maybe him scoring against United, I don't know.
Yeah, you could do different clips like that, but even talking about just why they love, Liverpool, right? And the essence behind it. So I like to try to identify a couple things. These are bullet points of what would really that person that would be watching this video really resonate with. Yep. And then two, I do research. Like I want to go out there and even know how well I know someone, I'm like, what else is going on out there? So I do some research online, trying to see if there's anything that's trending, especially when it's dealing with the topic at hand. So like for Liverpool, is there anything that's going on that would be in the news that would be relevant to the video today? So when you actually have those bullet points of things that would actually get them excited or something that's going on, I then try to think of what value can you actually bring that individual. So there's like three ways that you can actually bring value with video content. You can aspire, you can educate, or you can entertain. And sometimes when you're really good, you can do all three at the same time, or you can do two of them. That's when you're really, really good, when you're really giving it a lot of thought in it. Now that being said, once you do that, I try to figure out what value you're gonna bring to your intended viewer. And in that video, I try to bring those bullet points and then bring some type of value. So whether it's like creating loyalty to his team or talking how bad the other team is, that's some value that he'll actually find. And what's the first thing that you think that he's gonna do once he feels that connection with the video?
Probably share the video.
He's gonna share it with not only one person, but he's gonna share it with everybody that really likes what's going on, you know? And so that right there is outright critical. Then the next thing is really trying to explain what would be a great hook. Because like you literally only have a few seconds to grab his attention. And I'm like, okay, what can we do to grab his attention without sound within 1 to 3 seconds? You know, and maybe it's a caption above the video that says, you know, Liverpool sucks. Yeah. That I think he would watch that video.
Yeah, he would do. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that he'd have to be sucked in as he try to figure out what's going on in that video. So it's like getting those hooks. And then two, there's those natural hooks within the video itself. Like you gotta reinforce whatever that title is. And so I give that some thought. And that's basically the preparatory stage before you actually go on to the next step. But there's one other thing that I really look at is what source of medium are we going to use? Like, is it going to be a better Instagram one than Facebook? Is it going to be better on YouTube or on Twitter? You know, you got to look at the platform of who you're trying to reach and what's going to be the best way to distribute it. Now, one of the biggest mistakes is like, well, I'll just distribute it everywhere, you know, and you're making a video trying to go on every platform, and that's a huge mistake.
Yeah. So when we talk about going onto every platform, so I think this is quite important as well. There are obviously, well, I think there are two elements. You might tell me differently. The first biggest one that people think of is the ratio of the video. So if you're creating one video, you've got to think about how that transcribes into all the other ones. But is there anything else you kind of need to be aware of if you're going to be creating content for, say, Instagram or Facebook?
Absolutely.
Or even LinkedIn?
Yeah, and so that is part of the preparatory stage, right? And what we're trying to do is figure out, okay, here's what would work on Instagram. Now, maybe there's a hook or something that's a little bit better on Facebook, and here's something different on YouTube. So you can actually have the meat of the content be the same, but how you're actually shooting the video, how it's actually delivered is a little bit different. And that's where you're actually planning, you know, the different ways to actually connect on different platforms.
Makes sense. Okay, so that makes total sense. But one thing I want to circle back on really quickly is you mentioned if you're creating video, one of the thoughts everybody has, I mean, I've had this before when I've created video, is I'll just share the same video everywhere. Can you kind of elaborate on why that's a bad idea and that's a kind of a bad thought process?
Yeah, no, for me, it's like you have content and you can share it on other platforms, but it needs to be changed. Yeah. Because the way that you view on Instagram is different how you view on Facebook, and how you view on YouTube's different how you view on LinkedIn or Twitter. And so at the end of the day, what we need to do is really know how people consume content on that platform and make content that would actually work. And that's the big difference. Now, you can go through the same production and say, okay, I can take a portion of this. It's like you might have a 10-minute video on YouTube, but you're gonna only slice out maybe 2 minutes or 3 minutes on Facebook because it's gonna perform a lot better that way.
So we've discussed the first stage of preparing for a video, planning a video. We then move to obviously production and creating the video. So can you talk a little bit about how you would then approach that?
Yeah, now we did a lot of research beforehand. We were doing a lot of preparation. Now we want to start executing on those things. And for me, there's a formula for every video. And this formula is what creators need to create for themselves. And there's a few components to this formula that is universal for everyone. The first one is, which we already prepared for, is a hook. We literally need to grab their attention. Now, that hook is different on YouTube versus Facebook. Let me give you an example of that. So like on YouTube, the hook would be at like 5 seconds. And on Facebook, it's gonna be completely different because you might have audio on or not, and you maybe only have maybe a 2 to 3 second as they're kind of flipping through their feed. And even on Instagram, it's gonna be different. And so looking at that, it's like that hook is like the most important part. And I would actually put a lot of effort and energy to try to figure out how you're gonna captivate people's attention and how you suck them into the content. Now, after the hook, you can actually reinforce your brand. So if you have a brand, you can have a branding element. This is an optional thing, It really depends on what type of video content you're creating, you know, and then two, you're moving into the meat of the content. Now, here's something that I found over, 40 some odd billion video views. It's like people have a tolerance to watch. Yeah. And I don't know if you've fallen in this category, but I've been on Facebook before and I've never turned on the audio. Have you never?
Yeah.
You just watch the captions and stuff like that? I do. I catch myself. I'm like, why didn't I turn it on? Yeah. It was so much better with sound, right? But it's like, people consume differently at different times of the day. But what I found is if you can hook them, if you can get that hook, whether it's on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram, you literally have them for 20 seconds. Yeah. And that 20 seconds should be your gold. It's like you have to reinforce that hook, or you have to reinforce what your value proposition is to get them in, whether it's a title or a thumbnail or however you're pulling them into that video. You have to reinforce that, because if you don't, you're going to have the hockey stick effect. That means all the people that start watching it start to leave. Yeah. And you're totally not going to have anyone watching it at that time. And so you have to reinforce it. And that point when we were talking about your brother, it's like if you add one of those other elements that it's like, I like this video, like totally go from there. That's where he'll stay on a little bit longer. And if you get 20 seconds, if he can get to that point and really feel some type of connection to the video, they'll watch another minute.
Does that then lead to more engagement on the videos as well? So then they'd be more prone to obviously comment.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like as you're connecting with them and you're speaking their language or however you're going into it, you're connecting with them on an emotional level, and that they feel a part of something, and they feel like obligated. It's like something that humanity feels obligated to do. It's like when you find something cool, you're like, hey, you got to check this out. Yeah. We have to do that. We have to do that virtual word of mouth. And that's where it's so powerful. And that's what these social videos do. And so after the core, basically, of the content, you have to have a call to action. Yeah. And you might not think, well, if it's a social video, I'm not really doing it for, it's just more of an inspiration, or it's just a video or whatever. That call to action is still key, because are you trying to grow an audience? Remember when we talked about what's the purpose of the video? Well, if it's to sell products, we need to push them to a landing page, or to, hit that, buy button right below the video. Or if it's for inspirational, maybe it's like a hashtag or something to unite a cause. The list goes on.
So is that all for production?
Like a lot of people put a lot of thought in how things come together, and just like what type of camera to use and so on and so forth. But I think for me, it's like, be flexible. Even though that we prepared, you probably have a script and have like that, you're gonna have things come to you when you're actually doing the video that you're like, oh, this would be a lot better if we did this. And shoot different variations. Like, you have time, just shoot some different variations. Hey, maybe this will work better than this. And that will help you with the post-production stage.
Now, presumably you would take the content you've just shot, whether it's on your phone or whatever, into an editing suite or into a post-production, I suppose. Right. Do you kind of want to talk about what you do in that stage to get it ready to distribute?
So post-production is probably the most important aspect of getting a really good piece of video out there. Yep. And the reason why is because you put a lot of effort in preparing, you spend a lot of time doing production, but really where the magic is actually getting the elements that will really engage. And then also the edit itself is you can create pacing, and that pacing will keep people's attention the whole time. One thing that I look at is like we're trying to figure out how we're going to distribute it. So like if we're distributing it on YouTube, we would do it differently on YouTube than on Facebook. For example, we'd be a 16:9 ratio on YouTube. Yep. Because that's the way that it is on YouTube, right? And then two, we wouldn't necessarily burn in our captions. We would actually just upload caption files right to YouTube itself. But on Facebook, we want to burn it in because some people don't have that option on, and you want to make sure that when they're scrolling through it, you're grabbing that attention.
Yeah,
so you're like really,
you need it, isn't it?
Exactly. And it's like the ratio too, like on Facebook, we want to be a 1:1 ratio, a square ratio, right? So what other elements that we can actually add to that video file? Is it like to make it more of a video meme where we're putting text at the beginning and the end? Is it really engaging with different types of elements? That's the things that you got to look at when you're doing the video edit. Now, the thing that I love is if we did the production right and we have different options, like their call to action, we maybe did 4 or 5 different versions, you might have 2 or 3 different versions of a video, and you can test it too. Like seriously, what we do is we'll just throw a couple dollars behind it and see how it converts. If it converts really well, you don't have to spend that much money to figure out if people actually click on it, engage with it, how much they watch the video, to see if it actually works. And so spending the time in post to making your video really engage with the viewer and really connect with them on an emotional level gives you a higher probability for them to actually share.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I suppose from looking at all these 3 stages, once you've been through these stages a few different times, and as you say there, you do different edits as well, which is important. And most people would, shoot a video. I've been guilty of this in the past, and will throw it up thinking it's ready without doing too much post-edit stuff. But now I can see how important it is to do different variations, because when you find things that work, you can just continue following that blueprint over and over and over again.
Right, right. And one thing that I found is, even when you have a video that's performing quite well, the way that the algorithm works on Facebook and other things, it's like maybe in 6 weeks or 7 weeks, you do a different cut and upload it. Learn from what you already have, all the data that's there, and say, okay, what if we edited this down because we had a kind of a drop off here? Maybe we add, something to pull them in visually here. You can do that, and where you're able to do it, basically you're able to succeed, because people will tend to forget what they actually saw, from 6 weeks ago, of course.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, so talking about video editing, from kind of my experience, and I'm not a professional video editor, I know how much work goes into doing a lot of the things you say, the captions, memifying, even just putting titles at the top and bottom of your video can take hours for some people, and some people watching this may not have any idea how to do that. So I suppose in that regard, is it worth the time to do that? Is it worth the time to sit down, maybe put time into editing the video, or alternatively spending money with somebody else to kind of...
Yeah, like the video portion, the video editing is so critical. It can either make or break a video. It doesn't matter how amazing your script is. It doesn't matter how amazing your camera and your production is. The editing is where the rubber meets the road to see if it's going to actually work or not. And for me, once you're able to do it, it's worth the resources, worth the time. And when you actually put it together, it will convert a lot higher. And that at the end of the day, that's by far, besides the preparation stage, it's like the execution stage to the editing is the most critical.
Okay, so prepared, created the video, edited the video, so we just upload it now.
Yeah, and you'd say, most of the people would say, okay, that's just distribution. You just upload the video, you're good. Honestly, if you really want your video to be seen, you need to actually have a preparation stage of how you're going to distribute it. So back in the preparatory stage, you're like, okay, who's going to actually share this video? How are you going to engage with them? Is it going to be done through ads, organic, or is it going to be a blended strategy where you're doing organic and ads together? For me, I just love other channels out there. I love other pages on Facebook, because they need to actually feed the algorithm. They need to actually get their post reach increased. And so a lot of people are willing to share your video, but more importantly, they're able to cross-post your video. And so it's like coming from their page, and it's like an actual content, even if it's not theirs, it can kind of look like it is theirs. And that's a really, really important thing. So going back to your example that we said, hey, if we're gonna actually make a video about your brother and his football team, about Liverpool, whether it's good or bad or whatever, I would make a list of every page on Facebook, on Instagram, that would be pro or con, that, because that's who we want to target. That's who we want to contact. And believe it or not, getting those personal connections with these people is a way to have massive growth. And I found that if you can get 5 or 6 or 10 channels or pages that are similar to yours, that are willing to share your content, I mean, that explodes your growth. That explodes your reach, and you're going to have the views that come with it if you actually have done a great job with your video.
So with that, just to kind of go further into that, would you upload the video first to your page and then contact all of these other pages to let them know it's there, or do you take a different approach? Yeah,
so generally I do that in the preparatory stage. I know the video's coming, and so I reach out, because it might take a few weeks to get a hold of everyone or whatever. And who knows, maybe you're like, hey, I'll share your video if you share mine type thing. That's not a bad thing if you're doing cross-posting, right? Just to share a video isn't where the weight is. Like, you have to literally cross-post it, and you have to give them privileges to cross-post your content. And the same for you're posting their content. But that's kind of the key on Facebook. But the algorithm on YouTube's differently. You do it differently on Instagram and different on Twitter. But Facebook, I think a lot of people that are watching this video want to capitalize on that, and that's an easy way to say, hey, look, if you can have this page that has a reach of, let's say, 10,000 likes, that they actually post it, who knows how many views they're going to get. And it kind of reaches out to all these different pages posting, and all the analytics, guess where it goes back to? Your video.
Account.
Yeah, it's really cool.
No, that's cool.
Now, with blended strategy, like for me, I like organic, but you infuse it with paid ads. Paid ads, by far, is the most effective way to get in front of the right people at the right time. And if you know what you're doing, it can be very, very effective. If you don't know what you're doing, it can still be effective, because as soon as you say, okay, we're doing a video about Liverpool, right? Well, let's just target everyone that likes Liverpool, right? And let's target everyone that doesn't like Liverpool. And let's see if we can get some things happening here. And I think you could do that just with organically, but if you infuse just a little bit of money, it'll be really interesting, the results you can get.
Definitely. So I think those insights are pretty incredible, and anybody watching this video now has an overview or a blueprint to creating not just a video, but knowing what to create and how to push that out there properly. And for anybody watching this right now, we've actually put together a guide that goes into what Daryl talked about there, that entire formula, that entire blueprint. A few different things as well that we didn't fit into this video that you can actually grab below this video. All you need to do is opt in, pop your email in there, we'll send you that guide. So throughout this video and the first video, we've talked a lot about creating the perfect video. And that includes everything from, of course, preparation, right the way through to actually shooting the video, and then of course the post stuff, where you've got to edit the video up in the right way to get the best distribution. Now, all of that is very, very hard for most people. Most people don't have access to expensive camera equipment to shoot and film content, for example. Most people don't have access or the skills to use complex editing software either. And that's why we built Klippyo. Klippyo is a web-based video creator that essentially allows you to create incredible looking videos, just like the videos we've talked about in the past two videos, in the palm of your hand. We're talking about shooting content. We're talking about adding text, adding graphics, animations, and we're also talking about adding captions, emojis. All of that stuff can be built and edited right inside of Klippyo. Now, the main reason we built Klippyo was so that it's accessible to absolutely everybody. And we're talking, even if you've never created a video before, you want to get into video creation for your business, or you're a professional, you can create what you can create anywhere else right inside of Klippyo. And what's more, even if you don't want to shoot your own content, Klippyo gives you access to an extensive library of video clips, images, and audio, so you can pull all of this stuff together to build videos. We'll even throw in customizable templates, so if you're feeling a little bit uninspired, for example, you can just grab one of our pre-done video templates, change the text, the colors, upload your branding, and you're done. Klippyo is the ultimate video creator, and it's going to change the way both beginners and professionals create video moving forward. We cannot wait to show you it. So make sure you enter your email below. In the next video, we're going to pull the curtain back on Klippyo and actually show you how this platform works and how it's going to change the way you create video content for your business. We'll see you in the next video.